Hello, welcome to 45 TV. This is Politics with Jude and Dry. Dry, how you doing?
I'm good. What about you?
Oh, not bad. You know, is that time of the year again?
3 months to
We've
election.
been saying this, I think, in our previous 5 or 6 episodes. We say this is that time of the year, but we don't know what to start with. You know, it's that election season. Each and every other day, you know, it keeps getting hot. You know,
Yeah, tensions are rising. I mean, manifesto season, promise season, and project commissioning season, project shortcutting season. In fact, we are getting to, we are getting to. I mean, how do I say? We are at the core of it all, where everything is happening,
Right.
and where temperatures are rising as far as the quest to win power or the quest to retain power is concerned. So, I mean, what we are seeing in Ghana is normal.
There's a nice saying in Twi that I like. You know, they say, "Akonya toa na ama apere aba." So we are seeing that apere is a tassel.
Please translate for myself and the people who don't understand.
Yes. So to wit, it means that every time, you know, a king dies, there is that quest or search for who takes over the throne. So that apere, you know, looking at our cultural settings, right? We know that from the Ashanti lineage is matrilineal. So this woman has like 4 children. The Bujapini wants this. The Queen Mother too wants that person to take over. So that is the apere.
Oh,
yes, that's the win. So that tassel is what we are beginning to see. But
just
I have
that,
a question.
just that in this case, nobody's dead.
Nobody's dead. Yeah. Yes, nobody's dead. But I have a quick question to ask you before we really step on the accelerator to take things to the next level. Do you feel that institutional challenges could somewhat lead to this election not being smooth?
I think I've shared this opinion before on previous episodes of this program, that institutions or the effectiveness of some institutions, particularly the Electoral Commission in this regard, their actions or inactions or their effectiveness in totality can go a long way to affect the outcome of this election. It can affect the integrity of the result that has been declared after the election. And we are seeing glimpses of these things, right? From one point where biometric verification devices got missing,
right,
and some other stuff got missing, to the point where when they were doing the voter registration and they were publishing numbers, and then you saw that the statistics were not consistent with the numbers that were being reported. I mean, at a point in time, I think for percentage of people who had registered at a particular point in time, they ascribed the male gender to the numbers of the female. And I mean, that kind of crisscrossing of number reporting. And I mentioned here that if you are reporting numbers and make these mistakes at the first chance of reporting, you are communicating a certain sense of doubt in your capacity and in your competence. And that, in extension, would affect how people would believe and accept the result that will come out from the election, right? And in the recent thing we've seen in the news is that a young man was found with a biometric verification device.
That's shocking.
That is very shocking.
It is,
right?
It's shocking, yes.
So it goes back to prove the previous assertion that were being made by the opposition that, see, there's some foul play here.
Yeah.
There is some calculated scheming and strategy happening here to rig the election. And we are starting to see certain evidences that substantiate these assertions.
Right.
And it's if the EC doesn't do their work well, it will go a long way to affect the election result.
Yeah.
Again, security agencies, if they also do not step in to ensure and inspire some level of belief and trust that they are ready and capable to secure the peace and tranquility in the states, that also can actually affect the outcome of the election to some extent. So yeah, state institutions need to be on their toes and to be very effective in delivering their mandates exceptionally so that the election comes out smooth and free and fair and peaceful as well.
Yeah, but how long can Ghanaians keep excusing Electoral Commission's discrepancies, not only with the numbers, with something like BVDs that has people's information stored on it.
Exactly.
You know, believe it or not, the opposition might come up and speak conspiracies and whatnot, but these actions lead credence to some of the conspiracies.
Exactly, which I said, good. See, these actions are giving certain credence and certain substance to these allegations, and gradually these things would graduate from being conspiracies to being perceptions that the masses will buy into. And once the masses buy into a particular perception, facts would have an uphill task to change this perception, because perceptions are very, they sit deeply in people's minds that it takes a lot of time to change, which is why you hear parties or political parties are able to weaponize propaganda against their opponents, and it works because perceptions normally drive or they determine the trend of action of people. So if these things we are seeing are not dealt with properly, like we said, it's going to affect the smooth outcome of the election, right? I'm not surprised the NDC is saying that they're not going to sign the Peace Pact because of certain things that they are seeing from the other divide of the political landscape, and which warrants actions from certain state institutions. But because of their inactions in those instances, see what that has caused, giving the NDC certain level of boldness and effrontery to say that they won't sign a peace pact. That was
going to be the next the next topic I was going to come to. The Peace Council, and viewers should bear with me, the Peace Council, after election 2020, they have been silent. There's been numerous of corruption scandals here and there. They have been silent. Prior to 2020, prior to
2016 election, actually.
Yes, prior to 2016, we saw glimpses of government-sponsored thuggery, attacking people, and the Peace Council, they have been quiet. For want of a better word, they seem dead. The only time we heard of the Peace Council was when they needed funds, $1 million to run election 2024. Please, let me wrap up, then you come in.
Okay.
Now, the Peace Council, having found its voice, all of a sudden can make ear to hear the cry of the NDC. They have been calling for the implementation of the Ayawaso West Wuogon findings. They have been calling for all sorts of things. They've been crying. In fact, it got to a point in time, the opposition party and the Peace Council had a back-to-back.
Yeah, they had a tussle.
Yes. So today, the Peace Council goes to the National Democratic Congress's head office, asking them to sign a Peace Pact. And they abjectly refuse.
Yeah, I would say that I completely side with the sentiment of the NDC. Not for obvious reasons, but for reasons that, if certain things are happening that warrant certain actions from institutions like the Peace Council and then even the security agencies are not being taken, you are giving way for these people to make certain utterances like they are making, right? Not signing a peace pact is a very heavy statement to make.
Right.
It's very heavy, right? Because these political parties, this is the biggest opposition we have in the country. And chances are that they may even win the election, which means that they are commanding the largest number of the population right now. So by just a string of words, they can actually create chaos in the nation. Right? Which I believe they won't do. But if things should go the way they are going, that the party,
let me ask a very blunt question.
In power.
Yeah, let me ask a very blunt question. Do you feel that as a citizen, not as a co-host on this podcast, as a citizen, do you feel that the Peace Council is somewhat tainted to, is somewhat biased?
See, as for me, I've always maintained that the concept of neutrality is abstract, right? Everybody to some extent has their favorite.
True.
It's a matter of management and to the extent to which you expose your bias, right? The Peace Council in the erstwhile administration was very vocal. I mean, they spoke on every scandal I can remember. But in this regime, they seem to be very silent on matters. I don't know if their head is Professor Mante or there's this.
No, I think Professor Mante has
left,
retired,
right? Yeah. The new guy is on record. Actually, I saw a news article that read that, or that was headlined with this caption. For him, he's not been speaking because Akufo-Addo is his friend and he's been advising Akufo-Addo in private.
Yeah, so that's quite problematic.
Yeah, good. So if certain statements like this are being made by an institution that is trusted with safeguarding the security of the state, an institution that was very vibrant and very vocal in the previous regime, it tells you
it's a reckless statement.
Exactly, it tells you where they stand, right? And that is one evidence. The next thing is this. You see Brian Acheampong make statements like...
I was going to link it.
We won't hand over power, or we will win power by all means.
Now, viewers should know that not once did he say that.
Yes, he said that.
This is like about a third or the fourth time.
Exactly. I mean, the fact that you have military experience, I mean, I don't know if he was even in the field or... I mean, news broke that he was in the kitchen looking for the military, but I don't know how true that was. Yeah, but he has a military experience.
No, let's not even make a light of that situation about he having some military expertise. Now, let's go back to 2020, right? The Ayawaso West War gun.
He supervised.
He was the one that supervised it.
Exactly. So
he was fingered in that report.
Exactly. So if someone like this with that record is saying statement like this, it shouldn't be taken lightly, because, I mean, there's a very simple social a very simple psychological principle, which states that if someone has done something before, the likelihood that they can do it again is there, is significant enough. So you don't take these matters lightly. When they make such utterances, you pick them up, you interrogate them. What do you mean? Clarify.
But who's going to pick Brian Acheampong up?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
He's a minister in government.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That, like, I mean, nobody's above the law. I mean, in principle.
No, but if you should check, we can't leave this or drop this at the footstep of Brian Acheampong. It's kind of common amongst a lot of people in government. But they've been beating the war drums.
Exactly. You know something? In the
previous, even the president himself said that he wants to hand over. He
won't hand over power to Mahama or something.
No, before that, he said he himself will only hand over power to his chosen.
But I mean, there's a recent news out there that says that he's going to hand over power peacefully or something. I just saw something like that. I think yesterday or so.
He was forced to.
We can't really say that. But once it came from him, at least
given the utterances, don't forget we have had an episode here where we talked about the discrepancies or inconsistencies and the way this president will, before party folks speak and when he meets the international community, what he says. And not once has he repeated such utterances. You can't even hold it against me, or you can fault me for saying that. No, maybe he may have been forced to,
That is
it's my opinion. Yeah, that's my opinion.
But what I actually know, and which hasn't just happened once, like in the case of Brian Acheampong, is something that confirms even the principle of convincing people, or the principle of persuasion, that 3 is the smallest element of every pattern that should establish. 3 is the smallest number of an element that establishes a pattern. So this person has said a statement not once, not twice, not thrice, I think more than 3 times. Or even if he said it 3 times, it satisfies the condition or the rule that he's trying to create a pattern, he's trying to communicate or incite his members against the result if it goes against them in the polls. And these things should warrant responses from the state institutions whose mandate is to safeguard the peace we are enjoying in the country right now. So if you can't go and pick these people up, or you can't interrogate them as you did in the erstwhile administration, you see, you are trying to tell us how, again, lame duck you are, and how probably toothless you are, and all of that. So these things are very serious. They need to actually react to this kind of statements, right? And if you don't do that, they are giving substance to the NDC to say what they're saying. Yeah. Which is why the NDC is saying that they are only going to sign the peace pact if certain conditions are met. They should pick up or arrest certain persons who have made these reckless statements. And they are right to make that kind of demand, because in their time, people were picked up. I mean, not even in their time per se. Before the 2020 election, people that made similar comments were easily picked up, right? I mean, people that were purported to be making coup plans were picked up without any substantive evidence to support that allegation. They were picked up. Until recently, that we know that one ACP or one police high-ranking officer was acquitted. Agbozo. That he was not really, he's clean of every allegation of coup. So you see, let's be consistent in the application of the laws we have. Let's not be selective because people are in place of power or people have strong ties with the president or something. So we won't apply the law as it ought to be applied in their case. Let's be very consistent and practice the principle that no one is above the law.
Right. That no one is above the law. Viewers, we also want to inform you that next week we are bringing you a special edition. We call it the Manifesto edition. We have manifestos flowing in left, right, and center. We know you want to hear from your political leaders. Dry and I, before today's episode, we're talking about it. We need to do a special edition for that.
Yeah.
Next week, we are coming to you with the Manifesto edition. Bawumia is speaking. The NDC is also speaking. The youth of the NDC have spoken.
Yeah.
Their manifesto is out. I'm going to ask Dry to give his take on that. But next week, we're going to treat you to
the main manifesto itself.
A great dish called the Manifesto Edition. Right, NDC Youth Manifesto.
Yeah, NDC's Youth Manifesto is convincing.
It doesn't convince me at all.
It's convincing. The only thing I think I didn't like in that manifesto was the free first year.
Yes, it's quite populist.
Yeah, it's quite populist, and it's obvious that this one is like is the desperate tactics they are trying to employ.
It looks like
to get
it's very obvious because there's a country that is saddled with debt. We are unable to come out from our sunken debt for whatever reason.
Not even from that point of view. I mean, from their own. I'm coming from their own reasoning. When the free SHS was implemented in the way it's been implemented, they argued that, let the people who need get the money.
Right.
So if I can afford and I choose to pay for the fees of my ward, allow me that chance to exercise that responsibility.
Right.
In the same logic, you can't say that let's the policy apply to everybody. So if a citizen says that, I'm capable of paying my ward's school fees in the first year of his college studies, allow me to exercise that responsibility. But the way and manner in which they are communicating the policy suggests that they won't even give that chance to parents who have the means to support their ward's education, which then goes into plunging the state into further debt. But again, they argue very nicely, a very nice principal argument that, the government is spending a lot in the state house, running the state house. The government spends a lot in traveling, the grandeur expenditure of the government's budgets, this government's budget can be cut, and that money, in fact, they did the mathematics. I followed the conversation from the discussion or the launch of it to the discussion, or to, I think, to the youth engagement, to even the National Youth Organizer, his space with Kali J on Twitter, and he was explaining, doing numerical analysis of how feasible and how realistic this is. And I listened with one question. I think they averaged the cost of fees per child going to the university, and then they averaged it to about 2,500 or something. But I can tell you, see, I've seen it can be an average, right? But I've seen there can be very huge variances for students who are, like, let's say, doing different courses. Those doing, like, medical students pay higher fees. Those doing engineering, they pay higher fees. But those going to public schools and are distance students, they equally pay higher fees. So the average may be right in the calculation, but let us also, actually make arguments with averages, because they're very misleading. Most of the time, we want to make arguments with variances, right? I can say that between you, myself, and Ronaldo, there's an average of 5 Ballon d'Ors.
Yes.
Which is true, or I don't know if it's 6 or 5. 5 Ballon d'Ors.
I don't have any Ballon d'Or.
Which is true.
It's zero on my part.
It's zero on your part. It's zero on my part.
But the average is,
but
his numbers
alone. Good. Exactly.
Exactly.
So you see, the impression is giving you. It's giving you the impression that, I also have a contribution, which I don't have. So if you do a variance argument, ask yourself, how huge is the margin from the average for other people who are into special programs in this public universities who are paying relatively huge amounts of money, right? And now redo the calculation again and see if it is true that where you say you get the funds from can really be true or can really support that particular initiative, right? Even if, let's say, it will support that initiative, is that real? Politics is like a demand-driven business.
It is.
Right? So I don't think there's so much demand, right, that wards or people need their first year school fees paid. There may be those one students, right? Rather, extend the capacity of the secretariat, right? Give them enough funds to be able to truly identify people in those peculiar situations that need support and that need cushioning for them to enter into the first year and become students and can benefit from the student loan going forward in their education.
No, I agree with you.
That is my own.
I agree with you. Yeah. Why don't we, and in agreeing with you, why don't we recapitalize Get Fund, make these students take softer loans, right? Spread it over as like a shorter amortized or a longer amortized period. Then they can pay back. Yeah. Then they can pay back. Also, government is able to have some revenue, to set up other enterprises for those who are exiting the universities.
Exactly.
To get jobs. Yes. But that having said that, I want us to quickly look at. I want you to merge two topics right now and do justice for me. We have the Trafigura judgment there and the Tobinco and the FDA thing.
Tobinco and FDA. I think this started in 2013 or somewhere around that time when Upuni was the then boss at the FDA. And there was this case of Tobinco drugs being expired on the market.
Yes.
That warranted the FDA to place some embargo on their drugs and even recall or call back those ones that were at hospitals and they were being dispensing.
Yes.
And that is a big issue. And I followed the Tobin's interview on City with Bernard, and Bernard asked them a very simple question. Why do you need to wait till now to go to court?
To court, yeah.
His argument was that he needed to save and put his house in order before he proceeded to court. And then, but if you read his demeanor and everything, you will see that he didn't admit it on set. But I mean, discerning minds and intelligent audiences can clearly tell that there is an underlying political factor. So he thought that at the time, if he was to go to court, the government of the day probably was not on his side, because he said he went to Mahama couldn't help him. So he went to Atinunketa couldn't help him. Obviously, if you go to court when Mahama is in power and couldn't help you as an individual, trust me, the court will also be able to help you.
Yes.
So in my simple reason, that is why he waited to go to court.
But is that not corruption?
That is, I don't know.
No, you don't know?
Yeah, I don't know.
Come on.
But I mean,
viewers, that is stark corruption.
No, I'm coming.
Wanting some sort of quid pro quo, wanting some sort of assistance from a political figure is nothing but corruption spelled out from C to the N. You know?
See, I'm coming.
We cannot say you don't know.
No, see. Once I had an argument with someone, a friend of mine, right? The way we are socialized in our culture, the concept of assistance and the concept of extending help to a friend in need, right? There's a thin line between that concept.
Let me ask you a very, very basic question. The simplest of its form. You know, how can the president at the time, Mahama, or the secretary at that time, general secretary at that time, Johnson Atinunketa, how can he help Tobians?
They can expedite the process of court hearing. They can expedite the process of
court hearing. Do they work at the judiciary service?
They don't. They can.
How can they expedite it?
What even made him go to court or get to that level was this. He said that he was asked to sign some police reports, right? And unbeknown to him, he signed a report. He signed that document that implicated him, which is why the case got to that level. He signed the paper or a document that read that indeed he had distributed expired product and all of that, right? But that aside, the whole thing is this. The fact that we are in a country where people are trying to survive, or people are trying to create businesses for other people, to employ other people, and to basically just boost the economy, right? If these things happen, and true to the facts and to the evaluation standards, they don't meet the benchmark, it's true. Or the right thing ought to be done, that these things ought to be taken back from the distance. But the extent to which the Tobin case went looks like Oponi had a personal thing with Tobin. That's how the whole thing look like. Because to call back drugs that were not expired, just the batch that you saw had probably not met evaluation standards, those ones, bring them out, right? But to call back even the ones that were distributed and the ones that you yourself, your organization or your institution checked and marked as due to be distributed, that to me was too extreme, right? That's too extreme. I saw a news article recently about on the same story involving the WHO, but I won't speak on that because I didn't get the details of it clearly, right? But to the judgment debt issue, Charlie, it's a very simple thing. We at the time, I think the then administration got this GE, how do you call it? Power plants, right, to be brought into the country and to be installed, right? The whole idea is this: the company that was contracted for that purpose was supposed to fund. It's supposed to fund. I mean, in the agreement, duties were supposed to be cleared by the government. Government was supposed to facilitate their certifications and documentations, and then giving them land, right? But when the power plants got to the port, the company themselves bore the cost of clearing. The assurance from the government that, okay, you pay the duties, we'll refund the money to you and everything, right? The whole thing is this: the government of the day came and said that, see, that particular deal, right, will cost the state financial loss because of the cost in consumption, right, or the cost in capacity generation, whatever, that kind of thing, right? So the whole idea is that the government of the day terminated the contract in the name of cost or price being too high and costing the country, which is not true, because that particular deal, I think, has one of the cheapest capacity charges in the ones we have right now. Car Power saying they cost more than what the deal we had with this particular one, it should have caused that. But I think what is happening here is this. Because the government of the day, upon reviewing the contract and trying to renegotiate it to probably save their best interest so they can get something from it, failed to do so, then they said, okay, if you won't get it, then we'll cancel it for the cost to be on the states. So upon cancelling that cost, the reason why it went to arbitration and all of that is that the company had bore a lot of cost in ferrying the power plants to the country and borrowing the cost of paying duties and having to take the power plants back and all those back and forth and the cost involved and everything and contract termination and everything. I think they took the case to arbitration, and arbitration, obviously, we are in the error in this. So we need to, again, bear the cost of something that could have rather benefited us. Now we are paying the cost for something that we don't have right now because now the power plants are with them. We'll pay them anyway for breaching contracts and then pay them also excess compensations for all the costs they bore in transporting and ferrying the power plant back and forth. And I think going this way is really, really bad. For you to want to review a contract in the name or with the good intention of saving the country some money in their coffers and realizing the details of this contract in its truth is rather benefiting us. But because you don't have a stake or you don't have a cut in that deal, you want to find some ways and means to, mess things up.
Too bad.
It's just too bad. We saw an example of that with PDS. We saw an example of that with some of the contracts that this government tried to renegotiate it. So I'm not surprised.
Right.
But just that the cost is now on our shoulders to pay as Ghanaians, and it's bad.
Yeah, wrapping it all up, it's bad. When the day of judgment comes, Ghanaian politicians who are fond of having judgment debts, will face their maker and pay judgment debts. In the face of all this frivolity, in saying we don't want to continue this contract because we feel this, that, and third, we are saving the country money. They end up making what is to be saved the most expensive. Just as we have the most expensive hole in Ghana today for a cathedral that seemingly, was going to become our place of worship. Today, we go and we worship the water in the hole. Expensive as it is, our politicians take the largesse they enjoy from the citizens in having parties, spending on their girlfriends, doing unnecessary things. It boils down to that day of judgment. And when the day of judgment comes, we hope they have the dollars in their pockets to pay their maker, what they actually owe Ghanaians. It's been Dry and Jude on 45 TV Politics here on 45 TV. We want to catch you next week. It's going to be Manifesto Edition. See you.